All right, we are live with Dom. Hi, everyone watching in the chat. Gonna get right into it. Okay, here's the actual part of the show. Okay,
No cute banter.
well, we'll do it in the show. The pre-show
We
banter
wanna-
is good when you have unlimited time. You got an
Yeah,
hour. You got to get to the show.
but
Okay.
I don't want the banter.
Well, we'll do it. We'll do a great banter. 10 minutes of banter easily. We
Okay.
should do that. Okay.
Can't tell if you're serious.
I mean, we'll follow.
I don't think you are.
This is like improv, you know. We'll just we'll go with it.
We're gonna go with it.
Okay.
Okay.
We've got a special treat for you today, listeners, because it's our annual tradition. Back on the podcast is one of our favorite writers from The Athletic and the creator of the best projections spreadsheet that we all are obsessed with and have been talking about all day today as we've started our couple drafts. Welcome back to the show, Dom Uschishin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. That was an expert pronunciation of my last name. I feel like I recall you butchering it often every year, but you nailed it this year. Proud of you.
Honestly, it's like your memories are old. Like I've nailed it the past couple of years.
No, that sounds-
I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure.
think that's true.
That sounds fake.
My memory is that we said it a certain way for several years, and you only really dropped the hammer on us last year.
Mm-hmm.
At
Yeah,
which
that sounds
Someone
right.
create the supercut. I think that I think I'm going to come out okay on this. But yeah, how you doing? Let's get right into it. You dropped this. I asked how you're doing, and I kept talking, of course.
Can I also ask? I'm going to jump in with a question. Elon,
Okay.
and sorry to preempt, but Elon called you the creator of the sheet. What are you the creator? Like, is there a co-creator? Are you doing this yourself still? I know, like Shayna and you have the article together. Can you? Maybe I'm jumping ahead, Elon. I'm sorry, but I was just curious. Like, whose is this? Is it the Athletics? Is it property of the New York Times?
Technically, it is currently property of the New York Times as long as I work there. But yeah, it is me and Shayna now. I make the spreadsheet and I do the projections, but she helps with getting like the positions for Yahoo ready, and they're always wacky, getting the ADP, and I think most importantly doing our like subjective assessments, because I think Shayna has a pretty good gut feel for those things and looking at the projection and being like, oh, I think this guy should be a little higher. Let's add a little plus, or this guy should be a little lower. Let's add a little minus. And I think it's helpful to have two eyes, I guess, going through it and doing that. So yeah, it's a tag team effort, and I don't really have to do that much because the projections are just updated every day of the year anyways. So it's just a matter of getting them to the spreadsheet that's a template, and yeah, from there it's not too bad.
Is there a lot of arguments where you end up having to like make compromises, or do you tend to end up agreeing on most of these players?
No, usually the process is I say, here's the projections, give me your pluses and minuses, and then I'll do the same, and then I'll sort of merge them together. So if she has a plus and I don't, then I'll just leave a plus. If I have a plus and she doesn't, I'll leave the plus. If we both have a plus, maybe we go two pluses or something like that. But there's a lot of times where we're on the same page with some players. If I have a plus and she has a minus, that just cancels out. It means it's perfect as it is.
Did that happen ever? That seems unlikely.
It happens. There's like one player a year, and then we just have like we have an argument, but I just laugh and mention that we were opposite on a player.
Oh, okay. Do you remember who that was this year, by any chance?
No, I do way too much before the season.
Okay, yeah.
I completely forgot about that whole process to remember who the one person was.
I remember
yeah.
every argument I've had with Brian. That's why
Me
I
too.
asked, but-
Like Elon and I have a really big one right now on Bouchard versus Darlene. Like who's the first one to draft in most formats, I think.
Bouchard. Yeah, I think there's.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, of course.
Damn,
There's- I don't think there's a question
Huh.
about that. Like I
Okay.
just took a brief look at what I had.
Well, like, because I think Darlene, at least in our scoring format, Darlene was like in the neighborhood of Bouchard, but with like that dead Buffalo power play that struggled for so much of last season. And but
Mhm.
he started shooting more and he blocked more too. And so I am hopeful that those shots and blocks carry over and the point totals regress so that he's just like a 70-ish point player instead of a 60-ish point player with all that great stuff happening in the background. And
Yeah,
Bouchard
but
just
then
seems like he has a ceiling.
Bouchard
I don't
showed
think
a
he has a
ceiling in the
ceiling.
playoffs.
Yeah, the ceiling is sky high in the
100
playoffs.
points.
Okay, I knew I shouldn't have thrown in that last part.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're saying 70 points,
it
I'm
was-
like, yeah, exactly. You've made
was-
my point.
I was
I think that
gaining
Bouchard could be
traction.
90 to
Mhm.
100. We'll see. Okay,
Okay.
but anyways, we've got Dom here. I'll go
No,
back
but I
to what I
want
was
to
going
win
to say
one.
before.
I want to win
Oh,
one.
sorry.
Just
please.
quickly, Dom.
Ask in a way where you'll...
Darcy Kemper versus Connor Ingram versus Sam Montembeau
For next season.
in like a wins and volume kind of format.
I think Kemper isn't that good, but it's a good situation.
Mhm.
I really like Utah this year, and I like Ingram. Montembeau, he's like, he doesn't have a lot of pedigree. He's had 2 great years in a row, and he hasn't really ever played over 40 games. So he's third for me between those 2 guys, I think. And then I think I'm picking Ingram over Kemper just because I think he's a little better.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think overall I would as well, except that I like Vejmelka to still steal some starts while David Riddick, come on. I don't know. I have a hunch that maybe it'll be like for the first 3 quarters of the season, Kemper can do what Talbot did last year. And then if you're in fantasy, you got to trade him before he also does what Talbot did last year and fall
To
apart after the
Riddick,
All-Star game.
because Riddick was better for stretches. Like, I think LA's a good defensive team, so it's a good situation to be in, but they've also lost Matt Roy and I think a few others. They're not as deep as they were. So I don't think the situation will be as cushy as it was last year. And Kemper, I don't know, goalies are always weird, so I don't want to be too decisive in any direction. He could look amazing in LA.
Yeah.
I don't think he's old and he didn't look that great last year, so I'd be a little concerned.
Yeah, for sure. And I promise that this is the only goalie question that we have for you for the whole rest
Beautiful.
of the show. Okay, so back to where I was going to start here. You've made this spreadsheet with Shayna, and I'll just give the quick background because it's not only just a spreadsheet of projections, it's a whole tool where people can put in their league settings, and then it gives you a ranking based on value over replacement. So you're comparing like forwards and defensemen and goalies, and then based on your league format. And I've noticed, and we've talked about it every year, so maybe we don't need to dive too much into like the whole model behind it again, though I did notice that you've added some things this year, and you explained in your initial drop that even your model itself has adapted in some ways. So maybe can you just give us the delta, like what's changed between last year and this year for those that don't like reading?
Yeah, this is a half objective, half subjective truth. But basically, the system we implemented a couple of years ago where we would add pluses and minuses if we just liked a guy a little bit more, didn't, and wanted to downgrade them. A lot of times it was fixing a quality of teammate change, and then we'd come on the podcast and discuss, and I'd say, oh, I don't know, well, I guess that guy's in a different situation, so you might be right, but the model's not going to figure that out. And this year, because I did a lot of work last year in terms of real hockey math instead of fantasy math and measuring player teammate quality, I was able to sort of fashion an estimate of what a player's points per game change would be depending on how his quality of teammate changes. So if Hyman didn't play with McDavid, how far would he drop? That sort of thing. And I applied it to every player in the league, and I sort of had to guess what their new quality of teammate situation would be. And that's a little tricky because you're now not only measuring the minutes of each player, but measuring how many minutes he plays with everyone else on the team. So
yeah.
In that sense, it is extremely rough, back of the envelope math kind of vibe, but it got, I think, some results. Like, it pointed me in the right direction of which players to adjust, and then I sort of tinkered with it from there, and it was sort of a more controlled way to do the boom or bust system. And when I brought it to Shayna after, I think we both noticed that we had to make a lot fewer changes, which is a good thing, I think. So someone like Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, they would probably lose a lot of value because they're not going to get any power play time in Edmonton, but they gain some 5-on-5 value by playing with Leon Draisaitl probably almost exclusively. So there's some give and take there where I might have underrated them before, and now I have them in the exact correct position, despite what some fantasy podcast DM'd me earlier today.
Oh,
that
that's
they're
funny.
too low.
Too low? Come on, there's no power play. How high can they get?
That's what I'm saying. Is that what you guys said? You guys said too low, or did you say too high?
Oh, wait, sorry. Let me look at the. Oh, yeah, because I forgot that I sent you a list of
Are you
people.
talking about us DMing?
Yeah. You said
What?
Dom too low. Arvidsson Skinner.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay. Look,
not
this
not
is
a chance.
not us. All right.
Okay,
well,
I thought you were shading some
Yeah, I was
other
excited
like
for the-
lamer fantasy.
No,
app.
Yeah,
There's no
I
shade.
wanted the
It's to your
tea.
face.
I wanted the tea, but it's about me. Look, I was gonna get to this. My plan for this show, once we get through the initial, introductions, was this is not Dom too low, Dom too high, according to us. Well, what I did is we've been doing mock drafts. Our patrons are crazy. We've been doing mock drafts for the past like 2-3 months, and so we've got a mock ADP. And so what I did is I took the mock ADP ranks of all these players and then compared them to the ranks in our scoring system that your spreadsheet generated, and then I just looked at where there's big differences. And so yeah, you have those guys lower than where they were being taken in the mocks, but I was totally gonna throw you the softball so that then I could say I agree with you. So this wasn't necessary. I'll let you know if there's ones that I personally like disagree with. I'm sure Brian will do the same, but
Okay.
we gotta talk.
Great.
I mean, the thing is, you did such a good job. What am I supposed to do here? Not do a show? Just skip the show? I gotta like throw something at you.
We can talk
But
about
anyway.
other things.
Yeah, I guess so. We ask you about how your draft went. I know the main thing that we know about you. I know 2 things about you, actually. I probably know a few things, but the 2 main things I'd say are, number 1, it's likely if I try to schedule a show with you, you'll say you're watching football at that time, so we need to do it at another time. And the other thing is that you don't drop your projections until after your personals league's draft because you don't want other people to know what you're thinking. So was that the case this year? And if yes, how did the draft go?
That was the case this year, but some of the league mates were getting a little pissy about their Labor Day being ruined every year, and that I already have enough of an advantage. So what's the point? And I'm like, it'll just feel like I'm playing against myself. And the way this league runs is a keeper league, and obviously you can get an advantage from keepers, but a lot of people trade their picks at the deadline and they go into the next season with a pick deficit. And I think because I have this preseason advantage, I can gain back that deficit and be competitive every year. Whereas there's been years where there were times where the league was sort of set up in a yo-yo system, which we've since changed for the better. But in that time, there were 2 years where I set myself up for this is the year. And those were the only 2 times where my draft guide was available to my league mates. And it was a much more frustrating draft experience seeing it go in like almost the exact order that I had it. And this was the 1 year this one guy beat me, and his keepers are unreal. So he's always good, which is great for him. But this year he had the benefit of having my spreadsheet in front of him, and I'm sitting there debating a pick, and I might have told this story already, where I don't want to take Erik Karlsson because he's always injured and he was kind of bummy in San Jose, and San Jose stinks. And he's looking at me and taking my sweet time, says, "Oh, Dom just doesn't want to take Karlsson." And he was right, and I didn't. And then he took Karlsson.
And that's the year he had 100 points.
That's the year he had 100 points. That's correct. So I don't want that sort of thing to happen, but it seems the wind is blowing that way because people are old now and want their holidays. But yeah, my draft went okay this year. I think a lot of people made silly picks, as they tend to do, and I got some good players, but there were also definitely times where I thought a guy would last and he didn't. Just as every draft goes, obviously. My defense stinks, but what can you do? Because I won last year, finally, after a 10-year curse was broken, and I did not have a lot of high picks. So my defense ended up being Darlene, who's my keeper, and then Seth Jones, Justin Falk, and then I try to go for a home run pick with Adam Boqvist, who I'm hoping gets Florida Power Play 1, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll see. Just 2 high floor picks, not a lot of upside, but hopefully it works out.
Hey, I mean, I think that Seth Jones has a year or 2 left of being that top power play, you would think. So if Bedard takes off, like you see, you have him projected for like around 90 points. So I mean, that should help Seth Jones. We'll see how it goes.
That was the idea, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like, I don't know if Seth Jones has that in him,
Right.
and I wonder if Kevin Korchinski just explodes randomly in his second year and takes over. But it feels safe, which is fine. It is what it
All
is.
right. Well, good luck. Anyways, you've got the championship now, so you can just relax and enjoy the season.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into these players, which, by the way, I'm looking back at my message at you now. It said Dom high, Dom low, not Dom too high or Dom too low. But okay, the players that you're higher on than our patrons. Let's start right at the top. The first player I want to ask you, I'm thinking for the duration of the show, we'll just throw some players at you. You can kind of explain what your thinking was with that guy. I want to start with Mitch Marner, who, okay, so I'll just let you know. So I've just changed another great thing about Dom's spreadsheet is you can set it to either have his games played projection or just go based on assuming the player were to play 82 games, and it just, prorates it. And so I just put it at 82 games just so that, we're just comparing apples to apples here. And so you've got Marner projected for 110 points and a decent number of shots. And I'm looking at his numbers from last year. It was 101 points. The year before, 101 points. Like, he had one good year, like in 2021-22, where he paced for 110. But aside from that, he's never come close. He's been great. He's been 90-100. But I'm curious what made you bring him up to 110, because I'll tell you that our patrons are in our mock draft rankings. He was the 14th ranked winger on average. And yeah, you have him 7th.
Yeah, I remember seeing my projection of Marner being high, and that was even before I added a little plus for him. That plus is Marner's in a contract year, and I can definitely imagine a world where this is a career year for him. Last year, he wasn't completely 100%. He was playing injured a bit. They have a new coach. I think there are a lot of things that are going to break in his favor, and he's been at that level before. 97 points, 72 games is, if I do math quickly in my head, that's around the same ballpark. But yeah, it's mostly, I think if you take the plus away, he's at like 105 or something, which is, I think, fair for what he's shown over the last 4 or 5 years, consistently at that level. And the little plus might be overzealous, but I do think this is going to be a big year for Marner. Last year, I don't think that was his best, but I think he's got a lot more to give for sure. I think he's being a bit underdrafted now because his reputation has taken a hit.
Okay, yeah. So it's interesting. Like, you think so? The new coach might play. Like, is it that you think there might be a system, or it might be more favorable towards Mitch Marner? Is it like a system, or is it like a personality thing? I guess I'm asking because the next guy I want to bring up is playing with Mitch Marner's old coach, which is Sheldon Keefe in New Jersey. So you are big on Timo Meier. So I'm going to actually not even let you answer that. Like, we'll roll that question into the next question. Timo Meier, Dom, I think you are personally responsible for at least like a 10 draft spot bump for Timo Meier this season, as opposed to where he might have gone without getting the confidence that I think you showed for him in your sheet. And like, listen, we liked Timo Meier before liking Timo Meier was cool. Like, we've always loved his shot volume. We've loved his expected goals numbers. And he did a lot of it without power play time for a while too. Then he got power play time and really went off in San Jose. But in New Jersey, like, the story, like, people always are asking us, like, what's wrong with Timo Meier? And I'm like, I think it's just bad luck for, like, it seemed to be a lot of it, at least his first run for sure, like the first partial season. And then last season, it wasn't like the shot volume didn't quite come back. Neither did like all the variants. So I guess you still have faith clearly in what Timo Meyer has to offer. You have him ranked as the 17th best winger, and our ADP, our patrons in our mock drafts, have him as the 25th best, which is a bit larger a delta than it was for Marner. So, yeah, what is it about Timo Meyer that makes you still this confident a believer?
Yeah, so last year was tough, and I can imagine that a lot of people drafted Meyer and just hated their life because he was not good for a lot of the year. I think last year the assumption was he'd get power play one time without any issue, and they gave that to Tyler Toffoli instead, which seemed silly. And I think that was proven right once Meyer actually got power play one time to end the year. And after the deadline, Meyer was his usual self. He looked unreal. I think he was point per game. I think he was getting a lot of shots. He looked like himself. And part of the reason for that is he was playing with Nico Hischier again. And he actually had someone to play with, because for the entire first half of the year, he wasn't playing with Hughes. Hischier was injured, and he wasn't playing with him. Like, he was just a man on his own, sometimes on the third line. And I think this year he gets a significant quality of teammate bump. And that's one of the things that I noticed when I did that little exercise is it was a few players that went to a new situation, but it was also Meyer on his own team probably getting a better situation himself, because it wasn't just Hischier injured for stretches, it was Hughes as well. Meyer was injured himself, maybe when those two guys were in. So it was just a whole mess of things that I think gets cleaned up. And I think New Jersey itself is going to be a lot better, where we just see Meyer return to his normal, playing with one of two elite centers and getting, I think, without a doubt, power play time. If he doesn't get top power play time, I don't know who else they're choosing for that role instead, but I don't think he's getting replaced with Dawson Mercer, Eric Holla, or whoever else. So I think he seems pretty safe, and I don't know, I have faith. I have faith in him, especially after last year. I think he let a lot of people down.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, and like, I think I'm starting to like understand your model, and I'm guessing it was you giving him more power play time that kind of bumped him up, because last season he had less than 50% of the Devils' power play time. Tyler Toffoli was there taking power play one, so I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Toffoli's out of the picture. Why wouldn't Timo Meyer just get back up to the 60 plus power play time he's been used to?
Yeah, exactly, and that's definitely one thing. Yeah, I see 46% now. That's something that gets a bump for sure. And I have him at 18.8 minutes, and I have it highlighted blue, a nice new little feature this year where you see that he is someone who I gave a minutes increase to compared to last year. And that's definitely one reason why he's up to where he is.
I'm just saying, you didn't mention the arrival of Stefan Nason in New Jersey, or Neeson, and whether, I don't think he's an actual power play threat. But he was in Carolina, right? Like, unbelievably. And I don't really think he will. Like, I'm still completely
I don't know
with
if
you. I'm just a
unbelievably is
completist.
the way to put it. I guess he's a possibility, but I think if you put Stefan Nason on the power play over Timo Meyer, you have lost the plot.
Yeah.
And
Tell it
like
to Rodney
Sheldon Keefe put his stars out on the power play. He played them, I think, 70% of the time. And I don't know off the top of my head what New Jersey's top guys were at, but like, I imagine they'll be in a similar ballpark where they're getting a big chunk. And I think you guys mentioned Hughes as someone I have a little high as well. He's another player who, if he plays a lot more with Meyer, a lot more with Bratt, like, he's going to get his own quality of teammate bump. He's at an age where I'd expect an even bigger jump, and I generally wouldn't be shocked if he was top 3 to 5 in scoring this year.
Yeah, this was another one where it's like me trying to, understand the model where like, yeah, you have Jack Hughes. Obviously everyone loves Jack Hughes, but our patrons were drafting him around the sixth winger. You have him as the third winger, only behind Kucherov and Pasternak. It's basically
Mhm.
McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, then Kucherov, Pasternak, and then in terms of fantasy points per game in our format, next comes Jack Hughes. Of course, that per game is a big caveat because he hasn't had a
Yeah.
healthy season in a while. So I guess it's up to you to take the risk, you being the person drafting. But yeah, I imagine that because like you haven't projected for 111 points if he were to play all the games, which is higher than anything he's ever done. And last season he paced for 98. But I'd imagine also this has to do with your model giving those bumps to young players. I remember
Mhm.
you told us that before, and he's only 23 years old.
Yeah, so he was someone who got a big bump. I think I gave a pretty big bump to Connor Bedard as well, but yeah, he's just at an age where a lot of players take an even like a big step, and obviously he's been at that level already. But I think we saw something similar with McKinnon, where he took one step and they took another even bigger leap at some point. I think it just depends on who his line mates are, and I know Keefe will like to play the stars together. There's not going to be a Hughes mishmash where Hughes is playing with Pallet and Nason. Like I don't think that's going to happen. Don't quote
Right.
me on that when it does.
Well,
We
like,
won't.
yeah, completely.
Uh,
Can I, or Elon, I'm gonna actually, if you don't mind, can I go to the next guy? I'm gonna go. Great. So, well, no, just because I see a connection here between Timo Meyer, who I feel like people who drafted him last year are very much to be like never again, and
Mhm.
but I see him like, where did he go in my couple draft? He went. I can't find it quickly enough. But he
okay,
went I
cool.
think mid third round, so third like yeah, around 35th overall. Um Another guy who I was one like I think it would be hard to take the plunge on again if you took it last year is Tage Thompson, who you've got ranked like not so crazy like so much higher than the patrons, about four winger spots higher than where patrons were drafting him in our mocks. But like, again, like it's just I think it's refreshing to see us like not toss someone away. I was actually looking at with we have like these allied chats in like a cupful where everyone with the same draft position is together and strategizing in like their little private bubble so their league mates can't see.
Mhm.
And like someone brought up because we have the fourth pick, we're talking about Nikita Kucherov, and someone's like, I don't know if I buy Kucherov at fourth. Last year he was being mocked at 10th. And then I was sort of putting out the theory that like maybe we were just wrong. Like we're not swinging back and forth so much, or he's not swinging back and forth, but our belief in him is, and we should just be a little steadier. So with Tage Thompson, like what, like how great are you feeling? How certain are you feeling that he can make up for what was like a really challenging season last year, where like he's known for shot volume and that went down. He's known for goals, like everything went down. But I see you also have like his teammates Alex Tuck and Jack Quinn ranked higher than our mocks do too. So is this like a whole Buffalo effect?
I don't know if it's necessarily like a Buffalo effect, but I imagine that like I think Buffalo is one of those teams that doesn't use their top power play as much as they should, and Lindy Ruff did do that in New Jersey. So I think we see a bump for a lot of guys in that vein, and Thompson especially will benefit a lot from that. 2 years ago, we saw Austin Matthews score only 40 goals, and everyone knew why. It's because his hand was screwed up, his wrist, whatever it was. And last year, he bounced back to 69. I think there's going to be something in a similar range with Tage, because last year, one of the reasons he wasn't scoring and shooting was he had hand problems. He had injury issues, specifically with how he was shooting. And if that all gets a lot better and he plays in a system with Ruff that is very offense friendly, I think there's definitely a strong chance that he gets back up to that 40 goal point per game range and brings the vibes we all know and love from 2 years ago. And it is about being steady. Um, I think there's a lot of times where players oscillate a lot between their floor and their ceiling, and you sort of want to from a projection perspective, find the right baseline, the middle ground, and I guess know what to expect on the high and low end and be prepared for both situations. And for Tage last year, I don't remember my exact projection, but I think it was probably around 80 points as well, even though we had a 95 point season or whatever, because he went from like 60 to 95, and you can't just expect that 95 is his new normal. You have to downgrade it a little bit, and it really is just about finding that baseline.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, also just the thing you said about the injury is just makes it so tantalizing to like, let's go again. Last year I got him at the end of round 1. This year, if I can get him at like the start of round 3, it feels like might as well go for it and hope. And yeah, you're saying even if maybe his floor is still pretty good, and like feels a lot better taking him not in the first round. Another guy who was still going, if not in the first round last year, but early second, and let a lot of people down. So that's going to be the theme, I guess, of the first half of this show. Let's go to Alex Ovechkin, who was so like the second half was pretty good, but the first half was so like painful. And as someone who had him, also I would like go on Twitter after the game, just search for the word Ovechkin and just see what the vibe is, and just people, especially the blue check marks, which now means people who don't know what they're talking about, being like, oh, he's so slow, he looks terrible out there, like he should, it was just like everyone was saying not only did he not put up shots and points, but he was looking bad. He turned it around a little bit, but still, at the end of the day, only 31 goals, 65 points, and your projections have him bouncing back a little bit now, going up in goals and up in points, which I think I have here, 73 points and 37 goals. And I know for sure your model generally penalizes the olds, and you don't get much older in the NHL than Alex Ovechkin at this point. So is there... can you just explain sort of why you have him doing better than last season, even though he's getting another year older?
This would be one of those things where it's the same with Erik Karlsson. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to do this. And I'm deliberating, and then I don't do it. And then he just goes back and scores 45 goals or whatever. So I don't know. Usually when you see an old guy take a significant step back, that becomes his new normal. Same with a young guy. If they take a significant leap, you're like, okay, they've raised their level. And my model does account for that to an extent. But I don't know. I think last year, with the way he was trending in the second half, I think he can be a bit better. I don't know what the hell was wrong with him in the first half. I think getting Dubois back, or Dubois in a deal, adding Mangiapane, like the team around him looks a little more solid. They have a bit more offense to work with. So in that sense, I think there's probably a little improvement. But yeah, I don't know. It's not something I feel great about if I was drafting him, because he's obviously ancient, and what he showed in the first half was probably not fun for anyone who had him.
Yeah, it's like just he's human, and it's sad to see, especially if you draft him in fantasy. Though I see you mentioned Dubois. You also have him having a nice little bounce back, a 61-point projection when he had 40, paced for 40 last year. Oh, he played all 82 games. Good for him. Couldn't even get half point per game. So I guess you or your model is, I mean, the year before he was 71. So I guess you are just kind of landing in the middle there. And I assume your model's assuming Dubois is like a top line, top power play deployed player.
Yeah, last year he played 1542. The year before it was 1827. Right. I've got him around 18 minutes. I think a big thing with what he was doing in LA is like he was just deployed in a very weird way that, I don't know, he might have been power play 1 to start, and they're like, screw you, we're taking you off. And maybe he didn't earn it, maybe he didn't work hard enough. That's been his thing for a while. But I do think like he is a fairly annual 60-point guy. And he's obviously had years where he just takes the year off. But I think as long as he's getting 18 minutes, he's getting time on the top power play, which he should, given the team he's on. He should get back to where he was last year. It's still a tough player to draft because everything else he does isn't very good. Like, he's not a shooter, doesn't block a lot of shots, isn't an elite power play threat, but I think he is in a better situation where he'll be more of a go-to guy in Washington and be more trusted and do more in a bigger role.
All right. Let's think some. I want to jump like further down the draft chart here. We're going down to who in the cupful has been the 70th ranked winger. You've got him ranked as the. Do you want to guess actually who your 42nd ranked winger is? That's 28 spots ahead. You have him nearly doubling his point pace from last season.
DeBrusque.
Oh no, but he's not like he's very similar. He's even further down the list though.
Uh-huh.
We did give Dom the list in advance.
Yeah, we gave you the list. I'm just like looking like, oh,
right, okay.
Is it like Byfield, I guess,
It's
or
Patrick Laine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, even with the list, Dom. Come on. No, I'm no, but
You
Patrick,
said you were jumping down, so I'm like,
You're
all
right.
right.
I didn't
you're
jump
skipping a
very
few
far
names
down.
here. You didn't. You jumped one name.
I-
Sorry,
I-
Matthew Barzell fans. We're not talking about you today.
Our last
Barzal is
show with
cut.
Dom. Today. Coming back.
Patrick Laine, yeah. I and I'll keep it short because I think we want to get to the lows soon. But Laine, yeah, you have almost doubling his point total versus last year. You have him with 50 more shots. Do you love the situation? Do you love the situation in Montreal so much more for Laine than in Columbus? And how confident are you that he is going to find his way onto the top power play?
Yeah, and if I could just chime in super quick, because I know a lot of the patrons have been all like worried that what if he and Caulfield can't coexist on a power play and they have to split power plays.
They
Have you
can't
heard that
stand
at
in the
all?
same spot.
I guess so. I think they'll find a way to make them coexist. Last year, he only played 18 games. But even that time, I think he was getting like 15 minutes a night, and he was on power play 1. I expect he'll be on power play 1 in Montreal. If you have any doubts about that, then I mean, just don't draft him. But I can't imagine they don't have him there. And if you look at where he was literally just 2 years ago, he had 52 points, 55 games. Year before that, 56 and 56. I don't think 72 points is that out of line for the talent he has if he's in a good situation, in a bigger role. And I think he's going to get that in Montreal.
Yeah, and I think that's another trick to using your spreadsheet is that you also have an ADP tab where, like people drafting don't have to necessarily follow your rankings.
Yeah,
exactly.
they shouldn't.
Yeah,
they should not do that.
Like if you think that you can pass on Laine and still get him in the next round, you're kind of like a sucker if you take him early. Of course, there's no guarantees. It just takes one person to blow you up. But I think for me, it's like I like the upside. I think I agree with you that if everything goes well, he could, like he's a really talented player. Obviously, like he could get there. But if I'll be okay like passing and then getting him later when it's more at value, just because I guess that's one thing you don't have. Maybe that could be next year, like some sort of like risk factor involved with each player of like which ones you're confident in and which ones you're like, here's where my model landed, but I could see it going like 20 points either way or something.
Maybe I add a little red to their name if I don't like them. I don't know.
If you don't like them, that'd be fun.
But it is a little bit of game theory where you see Laine is ADP on the sheet is 149. It might have changed since we published this, and I have him ranked a lot higher. Definitely don't draft him where I ranked him. Maybe draft him like a round or a round and a half earlier if you really want him, or risk it and say if he's there at the ADP, I'm definitely taking him. But there's definitely some risk to drafting him based on the year he had, but I think the situation and talent suggests he should have a good year.
All right, so let's flip over now for a little bit to these guys on the other side of the coin here, where you have lower than our patrons did. And we got to start with a guy who was like a darling last year. In my this is not the couple, but in a categories league, I mean, I know how you feel about categories leagues, but forgive me. In a categories league I was in that like had everything, like face-off wins and hits and blocks, and like JT Miller was, I think, on Fantrax comes up with their own ranking. I don't even know how they come up with it. It's like proprietary, but he was like ranked number 1 or number 2 in their ranking in my format. He had such an incredible season. He ended up with 103 points, 37 goals, like a lot of hits, like everything was great. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to draft him as like a first rounder in their league. Though if they look at your projections, you have a big tumble back to 87 points, which is still obviously really good, but not close to 104. Is there any? And it's not as if like this was like the only time he's broke. Like a couple seasons ago, also he broke 100 points, and then he had an 84 point season in between. Is there anything to your not expecting JT Miller to come close to what he did last season?
He seems to oscillate between those levels where let's see, first year in Vancouver, 72 and 69, then 46 and 53, then 99 and 80, then 82 and 81, then 103. It seems to follow a pattern, and you just have to find the middle ground and hope that it's one of the good years, or maybe this is the year he just finds his level. But I think JT Miller was definitely one of the more fortunate players last year, where everything he touched went in. Same with Brock Besser. They played together. Their PDO was out of this world. And I think they're talented players. I just don't think their 13 or 14% of shots go in when they're on the ice at 5-on-5. So if you're expecting 103 points from JT Miller again this year, I think you're a sucker. And you should definitely lower your expectations a little bit. And if you are drafting him 10th overall, like I get that the other categories matter, but that is insane to me that JT Miller would be drafted that high. I like him. I remember last year or 2 years ago when there were people who said his contract was toxic and they should trade him for a 7th round pick, and it just seemed so over the top. And this year we've swung in the other direction where they're
but he yelled at that guy. He
Like,
yelled
it's
at that
just
guy behind
on
the
the
net. It was so
ice.
rude. Remember that, Dom? He was
That's
really mad
JT
at
Miller
that
for
guy.
you. He was really mad at that guy. I think you just gotta. There's a middle ground with Miller where he's a really good center, but he is not an overrated bum, and he's not a top 10 center. He's just solid, and I think 87 points feels like a good middle ground. And he might hit 100 points again. He might do it. Just he's 31. He just had a year where everything went right for him. I just wouldn't expect it to happen again.
Yeah, it's fun. Like the on ice, like the arguing, like when he's playing bad, it's toxic. When he's playing well, it's like that's the fire in his belly. We love that about him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now we love that about him, and we'll see how he feels next year. And RIP to all the managers who have already drafted JT Miller in the first round or two of their drafts. I'm looking at D now, Dom, and I'm looking at Josh Morrissey, and I see that he has been taken as the 9th D in our mocks. On your list, he's the 19th ranked D. But I'm also seeing like a bit of a, like, he seems very similarly projected to the way he'll perform this year versus how he did last year. Like, you basically have him at the same, like, it's 5 points off, but like he has a few more goals. So really, in our scoring system, it's going to be about the same thing. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out in that equation is whether that's because our mock drafters are expecting him to take a step forward. That's one explanation I have for this. Or is it just that you expect a lot of D to recover and do better than they did last year, which is just pushing Morrissey down the relative rankings, even though his performance seems to be projected to be relatively stable?
I mean, to be fair, like Dom has him for 64 points and he paced for like 70 last year. So it is a dip. And the year before he was 80. So we're looking at Dom has Morrissey going down a second time in a row.
Sure, but it's not like a massive. It's not as big a difference, I think, as the others we've been looking at so far.
Don't get so
and
many.
I'm looking ahead. Like I see Dom has Erik Karlsson. You know, like back in style here, which is great to see. I'm hoping for it too. And John Carlson ranked even higher, most interestingly, in our couple scoring system. But that's because there's some peripherals. Anyway, Josh Morrissey, do you see him? Yeah, I guess. Do you see like that he was way too high and he's still coming down? Or do you just think the quality of the rest of the D in the league means that he's not like such an attractive piece at the draft table?
So Morrissey ranked 8th in scoring last year, and I have him 12th. And the people around, like, it's not like I think I've Morgan Riley passing him, Erik Karlsson passing him, or whatever. And it's not so much about Morrissey. It's that every defenseman is regressed a bit more than forwards. You'll see a lot of the defensemen scoring in general is lower. Like, I gave some pluses to Hughes and Dahlin or whatever, just because I expect a bit more. But in general, a lot of them will just come in lower because defensemen are just more volatile, and the baseline you need to create needs to be a bit more conservative. With, I mean, just look at Brandon Montour last year, going from 70 points to like 37. There needs to be more respect shown to, I think, that volatility. And I like Morrissey, but I don't know, his situation isn't as good as I think the defenseman I ranked above him. Karlsson, that power play was maybe one of the most snake-bitten power plays I've ever seen. And it, like, obviously didn't look very pretty, but they were getting their chances, especially early on. I think we see a market correction in that vein where Karlsson reaps the rewards of that. So yeah, I just Morrissey just doesn't. There's something about it just like doesn't really do it for me. I don't know. There's nothing against him. It's just Winnipeg doesn't feel like a very sexy offensive team where he's in this prime situation. Like, he has to do a lot more of the work himself, which makes it harder to, I guess, have this extremely high ceiling.
Yeah, more like Josh Snorrisy. I hear you.
Oh.
Okay, I got to go to a guy now that I'm sure everyone wanted us to ask you about when they saw the projections in terms of guys who are lower than they expected. Let's talk about the brand new Nashville Predator in Steven Stamkos, who, you know, I'm sure everyone's like, you know, people are. I'm not one of those people. I'm with you. I don't know why I'm sucking up so much. I'm such a loser. But like, okay, but like, you know, like I feel like a lot of people, like someone goes to a new team and it's like exciting. It's like, oh my God, like let's see what Stamkos is gonna do. Who's he gonna play with? Who's gonna be on top power play? Oh, he's gonna play with Roman Josi. You know, 100. But you're being pretty conservative here, and you have Stamkos pacing for 74 points, which would be a decline from what he's done. That'd be like a big decline. That would be like one of the lowest seasons of his career. So I'm curious, is this more like, yeah, last year Stamkos paced for 84, the year before 85, the year before 107. So yeah, you have to really scroll down. Oh, 2015-16, he was slacking, only 64 points. Did he get injured? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so Stamkos down at 74 points. Is this like an age thing, or is this more you're not comfortable with the situation?
I mean, most times when we talk about a player going to a new situation, it's exciting because of what they can do in that situation. And I look at Jake Gensel going to the Stamkos spot and thinking, wow, this is a complete luxury. He's going to get all these passes from Kucherov, Hedman, Point, whatever, and he's going to absolutely clean up. And I don't see the same thing happening with Stamkos, where he's going to like an obviously worse situation. I think Josi right now is better than Hedman. I don't think that should be controversial. But the rest of the guys he's going to play with, like, he's not playing with anyone at Kucherov's level. And even just like from a stylistic perspective, Kucherov is one of the best passers in hockey. He had 1 million assists last year. Nashville's best player is Philip Forsberg, who's more of a shooter. Ryan O'Reilly has some playmaking ability, but he's obviously not Kucherov. And then they're probably going to have Marchessault on that power play too. So you have 3 guys who want the puck and want to shoot. And I just don't know if there is going to be the same scoring usage available for Stamkos the way he had in Tampa Bay. So I do think that'll be, from a scoring perspective, like, will be a bit disappointing given what he's done in Tampa Bay before.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. New system, loses Kucherov, and I think Gensel probably, like you said, gets the better deal of that swap. And anytime, like, it's always tough for like the new system and situation. I don't know if there's anything to like the weirder, like Stamkos looks so weird in another jersey, right? Like I'm still like I need to adjust.
Feel right.
If my eyes need to adjust to it, I have to feel like Stamkos's like entire career needs some time to adjust to. That's the guy I want to bring up next, who you obviously hate because he's an Ottawa Senator, and that's why you're so low on him. Because
I don't think about the Senators at all.
We've got Drake Batherson, who like has been really disappointing for a couple years now, and I say really disappointing because he was basically at a point per game pace back in 21-22, and then the year after He went down to like a 60-point pace. A lot of things still like looked okay, but his shooting percentage was terrible. I think at 5-on-5 it was like 4% or something.
Mhm.
And then the most recent year, the last season, his shooting percentage regressed, but his shots didn't come back, and so he ended up in the mid 60s again. And I guess my question is, like, he's 26 years old, and your model has him performing about as well as he did last season. Um, Even though your model wouldn't know this, and that's okay. But Drake Batherson, he had 27 points in 29 games last year, which actually speaks to just how miserable his first 15 games of the season were, also, for him to
Mhm.
still end up with only a 66-point pace. And so I think some of us want to see that as like a ray of sunshine, but your model doesn't seem to be having it. Are you like is how convinced is your model that Drake Batherson is just like sort of a 60-65 point player, someone who there's like plenty, 2.5 shots per game, and that's about it?
I mean, I'm looking at him now, and it seems like I probably bumped his minutes down a bit. I think this was the case last year as well, where I bumped down a lot of Senators, and one of the reasons for that was 2 years ago they got an insane amount of power play time, and just as a team, I think it inflated a lot of totals, and ended up being lower on a lot of them, where I expect the team as a whole to drop their total power play time. And even if the percentage stayed the same, he wasn't getting the same amount of power play time as the year before. I think Ottawa was still high, but there is still that regression factor where those guys will be downgraded a bit, just because I don't expect the same level of power play time. Obviously, like if it's happening multiple years in a row, maybe there's something in the water. Maybe there's someone diving into the water. I'm not saying
Oh,
who it might
oh,
be.
okay. Yeah, who you also don't think about at all.
I don't think about it at all. Exactly. But yeah, if you like Batherson, like I see the vision. I might add a plus for him. I think he has more to give based on where he was in 21-22, but this seems like the level he's settled at, where he's a 65 point guy, and maybe I'm a bit too low at 61.
All right, so we've got a concession here. Dom loves the Sens after all, and so we're all fine. Um, Maybe I guess I just want to knock out some of these guys who had really amazing years last year, just because we're doing a public service here, right? We're trying to help people in their drafts. You
Mm-hmm.
have Frank Vetrano super low. You have him down at 46 points, like a 46-point pace, and
Uh-huh.
Frank Vetrano is someone who put up 60 points last
Uh-huh.
year. So you have him for like a huge, and he was like not only just good for like points, but like in a multi-category league, like he scored a ton of goals. He shot 3.3 a game. He had like 156 hits. Like it was like an insane year for Frank Vetrano. And looking at the spreadsheet, it looks like you're saying that was a mirage, and you're going back to like what he used to do before that insane 23-24. Is that right?
Yeah, for now. And when I saw that name, I definitely wanted to talk about it, because I was just reading the Anaheim Ducks season preview, and I was looking at Vetrano, and I was stunned he had 37 goals. I completely forgot about that. And I looked at the power play stats specifically, where he scored 4 goals per 60, and he took like 22 shots per 60. And the next highest usage Duck was at like 12. And I just don't think that is a conducive winning power play strategy, where Frank Vetrano is the go-to guy. And I don't like it didn't work. Like, he got all these cookies for himself, but the Ducks still had one of the worst power plays in the league. And it's just someone, I think, take advantage of an opportunity situation that I'm not sure he gets again this year. So if you look the pretty colors that a lot of people have for power play points, where it's blue, where I assume they're on the top power play, I maybe it's just wishful thinking that I just hope the Ducks put their best players on the top power play, but I just don't think he's there, especially with Cutter Gauthier there. Like, it just feels like he can do what Vetrano does, and they probably want him in that role instead. So I can see Leo Carlson, Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, Trevor Zegras, and Cutter Gauthier all higher in the pecking order for power play time over Vetrano. And maybe they do the stupid thing and have two mixed power plays and he does his thing again. There seems to be more talent on the team that should get that kind of shot over Vetrano, who I view as more of a sheltered scorer, and I think that's the role he belongs in more. We will see what happens in training camp. If he's on power play 1, I'm going to update it, and he'll be a lot higher because of that. I don't know. It's not where I'd put him for sure. Even after last season, I think it was definitely a bit of a mirage and flash in the pan kind of season.
Yeah, and like you say, like Anaheim, even though they are still Anaheim, but like the list of players that could potentially bump Frank Vetrano down the lineup is starting to grow. Like you said, Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson is now not going to be doing this random like being benched once a week like he was at the start of last year. I'd assume like Zegras will be back. Whatever, Troy Terry, McTavish. Like it is actually a list of good players. Maybe one day Anaheim will actually be good. Can you imagine?
Maybe could be this year. Anaheim has a lot of off days. They have the most off days. They always do. You want a duck in your life. I just don't think it's Vetrano.
Okay.
That's what I thought last year when I took Troy Terry.
I also took Troy Terry, and for the first 2 months, I'm like, he's going to turn it around, folks. He's going to turn around, and he did not turn around. What I do this year, I drafted Troy Terry again.
So
going back to the well.
Who's the top duck?
Because I had that moment with Zegras last year, and I'm not sure it was bad, but I'm not sure I'm not ready to get fooled again.
But I'm curious, like who is the top duck for you, Dom, this year?
I do have Terry as the top duck, and apparently I still have Vetrano third, or at least it was in my scoring system. I think just because he takes more shots than Zegras or something. I don't know. But yeah, I like Terry the most still. I think he's the safest, but in terms of ceiling, I think you've got to love what Carlson might be able to do. And I think Zegras finally gets back to where he should be. And Mace McTavish, I'm hit or miss on, but maybe he's there. And one of those duck defensemen, whether it's Minchikov or Zellweger, like one of those guys, I really hope they put one of them on power play 1 forever. They shoot Cam Fowler into the sun. And if the Ducks power play just goes off, everyone has a much better time. And this team gets exciting. And you also have to think of the look good, play good, feel good advantage. And they have new jerseys. Things are looking up in Anaheim, I think, where the orange in Orange County will shine brighter than ever.
What do you think of the new Utah jerseys? Do you think that's going to be a look good, play good kind of situation?
It is a jersey fitting of the state, which is that it feels very boring. I say that, but like I really want to visit Utah just because they have 5 sick national parks and I want to hike all of them. But if you're not an outdoors person, I just don't see the appeal of Utah.
Yeah, I once went there to go to, we walked around, I think it was Zion National Park. And we went to like a bar or something after, and they're like, you can't get a beer unless you get food. And like they have all these weird, I don't say weird, but interesting alcohol laws that you might have to navigate yourself around. But okay, I guess we're running short on time, unfortunately. It always blows by. Dom, like obviously you have your model. It's spitting out these projections. You put your pluses and minuses, but do you have any like? I probably should have prepped you for this in advance. Like, do you have any players that you're like especially feel good about this season? Like, you're like model be damned. I'm reaching for this guy. I'm really excited about this guy. I can't put my career on the line with the New York Times and actually project this guy so high.
Well, I can go over the players that I drafted for that reason.
Sure.
So I drafted both Jake DeBrusk and Brandon Hagel, who you guys put on the list as me being high on, which is fair. I think a lot of their value is predicated on being on power play 1. And I think there's an open spot in Vancouver. There's an open spot in Tampa Bay. If they put Nick Paul there again, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, but it feels like a power play with Kucherov, Point, Gensel, Hedman, and then Hagel would absolutely cook. And he can sort of be like the Carter Verhaeghe of the Lightning. And with DeBrusk, I love the fit with potentially Pettersson or even Miller. And if he gets that top power play usage, I think he can be a 60-point guy and maybe even get some shots and blocks. I know it's not really been his game, but can only hope. And on Defense, I drafted Adam Boqvist, just hoping and praying that power play one goes to him and not Forsling or Ekblad. And I don't know, just a hunch based on his utility. It feels like he might get the D'Angelo or Keith Yandel treatment where they shelter the hell out of him, but they use him for his sole purpose in life, which is offense. I drafted Troy Terry, obviously. Justin Falk is someone I think can fill the top power play void for the Blues, and not the most fun pick, but it feels like one that I think gets the job done. But yeah, there's a lot of guys I did want that I didn't get. Joseph Wall was one of them. So my league has one goalie starter spot, which is the correct way to do things. If you are in a 2 goalie league, you are streets
every
behind.
league.
Yeah, it's stupid. There's one goalie on the ice. There's one goalie on the ice. Why are you drafting 2? It doesn't make any sense to me. If you're in a 12
I need
team
to think
league,
about this.
Me too.
you have 24 goalies in starting positions. You are now leaking into the backup goalie pool. You have players on your roster who play like 20 games a year just because you need that third goalie or whatever.
Yeah, well, in our couple leagues, like a lot of people just draft one goalie, even though there's 2 goalie spots, and then just have an extra bench forward that they try to fit in. So I guess you're saying a solution to that could just be one goalie spot, and then maybe an extra.
Because the other thing is, it makes goalies way too important, and it's the most volatile position. It creates more randomness in your hockey league by having this over reliance on a position that is extremely frustrating to predict. Just imagine a few years ago you're drafting Carey Price with your first pick and he just is absolutely terrible. And this sort of thing happens every year. I think Vasilevsky was a top pick last year and he was terrible as well after coming back from injury. That one could have been foreseen, obviously, but I don't know. There's always goalies that surprise every year, and just having 2 positions puts a bit too much faith in it. So my league only has 1, and
you're going with Wall.
I wanted Wall because my keeper is Hellebuyck, and I went through the schedule and I'm like, what days do the teams not share the most? And Winnipeg's best situation was with Toronto. They had the most like days apart, and I wanted Wall because I think he's going to be maybe Swayman-esque for the Leafs. He looks like the real deal. I like him a lot, and someone took him in like round 2 in our draft. And we have 8 keepers, so like it's not like that early, but it was frustrating because I really wanted him.
So who did you get as your top goalie drafted?
Philip Gustafson. It's so dumb. I don't want I don't love that because there's a chance that Wallstedt just steals the job and runs with it, and there might be a 3 goalie rotation or something. But I don't know what can you do?
Yeah, maybe you're okay. You know, Wall is
maybe
injury prone. Stolars is a good goalie. Maybe he's gonna get a decent number of games. I saw an interview with Carter Hutton. He said Matt Murray looks great. Did you see that?
Maybe.
It's coming.
Maybe it's Matt Murray season.
What was Matt Murray wearing when Carter Hutton said that?
He had 2 hips. He had 2 hips replaced, I think. I read. Anyway, this is like I should do a podcast where I just tell you what I read on Twitter that day, and then then you just respond by making sarcastic responses. But anyway, okay, Dom, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, we've been plugging your draft tool, which is available to anyone who is a subscriber to The Athletic. Anything else you want to let people know that you want them to check out of your work?
No, we got a lot of good stuff coming up. It's not really fantasy relevant, but it's fun.
We like hockey. It's cool.
Yeah. So we have our annual player tiers, top 150 players in the league. This year we ranked Quinn Hughes much higher. So Vancouver Canucks fans, don't worry, we got you covered. And then we have our season previews where we preview every single team in the league, around like 3,000 words per team, and just show where that team likely lands, which I think is important for fantasy players, especially if you are looking at goalies or you want to pick teams from advantageous situations. We have how good they should be offensively, and you can sort of see the depth chart. So that's cool. And I also wrote a best bets guide, so looking at team over-unders, division odds, all of that. And yeah, not to spoil it, but Oilers and Leafs, those are the bets this year.
I mean, those are teams that definitely score a lot of goals. That's for sure. Leafs
Mhm.
decide to play a different style in the playoffs for some reason, but during the regular
For
season,
some reason.
they know how to score. It's funny that you mentioned Quinn Hughes really quickly. Another thing I read on the internet, like last year, Quinn Hughes said in the summer, he was like, "I'm going to take more shots next year," and I was like, "Okay, there's old Quinn Hughes like spouting off again." But then he did.
He
And now
did.
this year, I just saw that he says he's going to score 20 goals this year. So do I like how much stock should I put into what Quinn Hughes says he's going to do?
He has a sick shot that he never used, obviously, until last year. But watching some of his goals, like he was like ripping it from far out, and maybe that regresses, and he is a little overconfident in his ability to get 20 with his wrister. But I don't know. He seems to have the drive to do what he says. So maybe this is the year he pots 20 and gets another Norris.
Wow. Be very exciting. Well, okay. Thanks so much again for coming on. Brian, any final words for Dom?
Thank you. It's
Thank
always
you,
great to have you on the show. We really appreciate this annual visit. It's a perfect timing. A little late for those who already drafted JT Miller again, but I mean, hey, maybe the rest of your draft will go better.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. See you later. Bye, Dom.
Thanks, Dom.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye. And now Brian and I need to do some other stuff. So everyone who's here, what'd you think? Sorry, I didn't end up asking. Here's the thing, like Jarvis would be fun to talk about, but then I just looked it up and I was like, well, Jarvis had 67 points last year and Dom has him projected for 70. I couldn't think of like how to frame that question. Like, you have Jarvis getting 3 more points. He'll be like, yeah, he's a young kid. He's gonna do, so that's on me. If I was better, I would have been able to come up with a good question on the fly like that. But okay, Brian. So we need to record an intro to the show. Then we need to do ads. So, well, let's do the fun part first, and then everyone could leave if they're bored, and then Brian and I could do the ads without you, or you can hang out with us. It'll be fun. I'm happy to still take some questions in the chat also as we go. How do you feel? How do you feel, Brian? It was fun, right? It was good.
I had
It
a
was
good time.
Yeah,
You're a
me
great
too.
host.
Likewise. We should make a podcast together. We're a
Oh,
good team.
go figure.
Okay, so I guess I'll just start the show. So basically, I'm just going to start the show now.
And what
And
are we
then I'll go up to the
gonna? Are we gonna do? Oh, thanks for asking, Matthew. I think we'll probably cover it. We'll talk quickly about it in the intro.
How are your guys' rep? Sure, yeah, we can do that, and then we'll also do a whole show about it on Sunday. So yeah, we could just give a little tease.
That's Elon telling me not to talk too long about it.
No, take your time. I have time.
I'm gonna be really cool. No, it's good. It's good to
I
have
have
time.
lots of time.
All right.
Just take a sip.
We're only. I'm gonna mention that we're 2 managers away from starting a new draft.
Say that on the show. You should say that on the show.
I'm gonna say it on the show.
That's the whole. That's the intro. Like we can talk a bit about our drafts, but yeah, in the context of
We're gonna-
get in there.
The draft.
I
The
wouldn't even
intro is
say
gonna
we're
be a cupful ad.
I wouldn't say we're 2 managers away from making a new draft. I'd say we're 16 managers away from 2 drafts. That's how you should frame it.
Oh well, I was
We're only
gonna say, and we're 14 more. I'm gonna say both.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Okay. Would you
All
rather
right.
I said 16?
No, it was a joke. It was a joke.
Oh, I thought-
I was trying to
okay,
hype.
I thought-
I was trying to get hype.
I thought it was strategic. Oh, I
I-
see. I see what you. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're 30 drafts away, or 30 managers away from.
From 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's we have to. You put it in the universe. What's that theory? You put it out there and it comes back to you.
Manifest.
You manifest, right? So that's what we have to do.
What's our average draft time? I asked
You
Kevin
don't
for some
want-
quick data.
Well,
didn't-
Brian's is awesome and mine is poo poo.
Oh,
but-
Kevin gave me some quick data. I've got some.
My average draft time has been very good for the 1 pick I made. I made it in a minute.
My
And honestly, the only reason it took me a minute is because I was nervous and I just didn't want to misclick. So I was like, okay, is it Draisaitl? Is it okay? That looks like
Easy.
Draisaitl's face. Okay, let's do it.
easy. It's so funny. I had that with Kucherov this morning too. I'm just like, I never felt confident that it was actually gonna work.
Kyle Connor versus Cole Caulfield. I like Cole Caulfield. I think.
I think Kyle Connor. I think Kyle Connor is like the safe choice, but Cole Caulfield has like a really reasonable chance to outplay him.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Caulfield shoots more, or he did last year, I believe. And I'm really excited about like just that line with Slavkovsky and the power. Like everyone's talking about how and like who's Kyle Connor playing with? Shifley, 30 whatever year old Shifley, bores and snores, and then like
point per game Shifley, no big deal.
Yeah, it's just like regular whatever. You know, it's like
Connor's old, like he's old news. Caulfield's about to turn, like we know what he is. Caulfield's like the mystery box.
Yeah, well, not a full mystery box. But yeah, more so than Kyle Connor.
I mean, he was like Cole Caulfield's been a 65-point player for the last 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm. So right, so it's like
But last year he took 4 shots a night, and his shooting percentage was low. So and like you said,
and it was only the second half of the year when Slavkovsky became good.
Yeah,
so
like his situation is only getting better. Like Kyle Connor is probably like an 80 something point player. I'd roll with Caulfield.
But honestly, I think it's safer to take Connor. That's true. I agree.
Connor's safer. I think Caulfield's the fun pick. I had this choice in my own draft with Bedard versus Barkov. It was like very similar. It's like, well, Bedard, I could hope for him to perform as well as Barkov, or I can just take Barkov. And I went Bedard because I wanted to have fun. Last year, I had my moment of truth with Bedard and Forsberg, and I took Forsberg, and thank God. This year, I'm ready to flip the switch.
Forsberg just got taken in my league. Maybe I'll get a second pick today. But okay, let's just record the show. We can say all this on the show.
Yeah,
okay.
Why? What the? We're wasting
But I
content.
think Caulfield, I agree with Santo here. It's going to be a big Caulfield year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What am I saying? Yes, welcome to hosted by 2 guys who will always choose Erik Karlsson over John Carlson. Is that where I'm going with this, Brian?
I don't know how many people
Who cares? 2 guys
who want you to dominate.
Okay, sure. I love it.
Don't know.
This is where I throw to you. Like, do you want to do it this time?
No.
All right. Listen, who are totally going to nail the Dom Luszczyszyn pronunciation when we introduce him, and then we know actually that we already did.
Yes.
So,
Beautiful.
But we'll make to the listener. They'll think like they'll be like happy for us because it'll seem as if it's a little showmanship. It'll seem as if like they're putting some tension into the show. Like, will we get it? Won't we?
But then, aren't you going to say we're going to throw to the interview? Like, how are you going to lead into the
No, I'm just going to be like, now let's. Oh, I see Dom's on the line. Let's.
Okay.
Right. Okay, I'll do it like that.
Nice.
Okay. Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by 2 guys who are totally going to nail their Dom Luszczyszyn name pronunciation when we introduce him in a little while. I could feel it, Brian. I think I got it this year. I'm your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and with me for our once a year annual episode where we chat with one of the people, I don't know, because now it's 2 people. Where we chat with our good friend who gives us projections every single season, and to make him mad by asking him why we disagree about all the players we disagree about. I'm just gonna start the whole thing over. I blew it. I blew everything.
It's okay.
Okay. That's how I got this here. I'm your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and with me for our annual tradition where we bring Dom on and ask him about all the players we disagree about on his projections, and then we're surprised when he still comes back the following year. It is my very good friend, the Poobah Prognostication, the IPP MVP, a man who's already 3 rounds into his cupful draft. Well, I've only made 1 paltry pick. It's the great Brian Kahn. Brian, how's it going?
Hey, the great Brian. Juxtaposed
legendary
with Dom Luszczyszyn. I really appreciate that here.
Look, I did an episode of Apples and Ginos last week. That guy Blake hypes up. Like, he hyped me up so much. He gave me so many compliments. He complimented my looks. He complimented my acumen as a podcaster. He so many superlatives thrown my way. I felt really good. So I'm thinking maybe I should take that on, when I'm talking to you, and I should start complimenting you more. And you look great, by the way. Are those new glasses?
No, they're not. I wish you would have paid more attention every single week to what I looked like and considered complimenting me then. But this isn't about. I hope everyone's draft boards are looking good. There's my attempted segue. Yeah, we're thrilled to be here with you again this week, and Dom, who we'll get to in a bit. Just quickly, before we do, Cupful drafts are underway. That's the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, kkupfl.com. It's going to take you to the place where you can get all the info on it that you need. In fact, if you like, so drafts started today. I think last I checked, 47 divisions, 660 managers worldwide. I haven't counted the countries, but usually we're over a dozen. And it's a super exciting time of year. It's like I always say like the first round of the playoffs is like my favorite hockey time of the year. I think this week, like the lead up to Cupful drafts, is my favorite fantasy hockey time of the year. And good news, if you're like, oh, the Cupful, I was on the fence, I don't know, I wasn't sure, and they closed registration, we did, and we weren't joking. But guess what? Enough people have come in since we closed registration that we are just 2 managers away from beginning a new draft. And like we will start the draft as soon as those 2 managers are in and on board. And we're, in the bigger picture, we're 16 managers away from starting 2 new Cupful drafts. We'll keep starting drafts for every division we can fill up until the time that it becomes too late to start a new slow draft. So if you want to get in, it's not too late. It's not quite too late. Just hurry up and be one of the first 2 for sure. Or convince your 14 other friends to join with you. We'd love to have you. Everything's off to a smooth start. Shout out to all the Cupful managers who have been like amazing. My draft, by the way, Elon, you mentioned I'm like already so far in. I've made 3 picks. We're almost halfway through the 4th round in just a day, which is unheard of. Thanks to it was really cool. So our first manager, first overall pick, Matt, was in the draft room at 9 a.m. He took a minute. I'm not sure why. He took a minute and then drafted McDavid. Maybe it's what we were talking about off mic. Like, just wanted to make sure he clicked all the right buttons to make sure. And then the next, 5 or 6 picks, maybe 4, somewhere in there, were all set to auto draft, including mine. So it was like a beautiful, like, domino to start. So, like, Matt clicked McDavid. I watched it happen. And then, boom, 2nd McKinnon, 3rd Matthews, 4th Kucherov. That was me. 5th Pasternak, and 6th Draisaitl. I think we got all the way up to 6. And then we waited like a brief moment for Musashi at 7th to do his thing and take Renton. It's been a lot of fun. I've talked a lot. Elon, do you have any? What are your early? You have any early Cupful thought? Oh, I have some early ADP numbers and stats. Do you want to hear them?
Yes.
Or do you want to share? Do you have something else to say?
I don't know. You asked me. I got ready to respond, but then you said you had some good
No,
ADPs.
go ahead. Go ahead. You look amazing tonight, by the way.
Thank you.
That shirt, it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
it really shows off your physique.
I mean, let's calm down a little bit, Brad. Family show, but I'm trying to still get my inner Blake going. But okay, what was the question? Oh, how's my draft going? I mean, my story's not as exciting as yours. I drafted 6th. My draft went pretty much the exact same as yours. I took Draisaitl at 6th. We had a lot of chatter in the Allied chat about whether we should be considering like a Kaprizov, who had such an incredible end to last season, much better than Draisaitl, Jack Hughes, but just felt like this is already a discount, right? Like Draisaitl usually goes top 4 every year, so I'm not gonna, look a gift horse in the mouth, as they say, and pass on Draisaitl at 6. So I took him. Then I've been waiting the whole time. I haven't gotten to pick again. So you've had rounds. And I've been seeing you messaging me and being like, who should I take? Should I take Bedard? Should I take whatever, Gensel? And I'm just like, yeah, this sounds fun. And so it's slowly coming around. I think it'll come back to me maybe at some point tonight. I put a call out to my league chat and I said, I'm starting the podcast with Dom. So I expect it to be my pick when I'm done. So let's see if they can.
And what are you at? Are you gonna? Did they?
Let me see how they're doing. We are at round 2, pick 3, and I'm round 2, pick 9. So. But actually, this person's in the draft. The Goobs is in the draft. Red Lamp District picks next, and they're also in the draft. So I guess
it could happen.
A big decision to make. Nylander and Forsberg were the last 2. The person at the turn, 14, last round of the first, last pick of the first and second, last pick of the first and first pick of the second. They went Pedersen and Nylander, which is a really fun pair. Very different than your league.
Ooh.
Didn't your league go 2 defensemen in those spots?
Yeah, so my 14th, the 14th overall pick in my league, at 14th went Dahlin, and then to start the second round, took Bouchard, 15th, and then
Dahlin,
Elon.
Bouchard, what a
I don't know.
stack.
I don't know if you know this part, but to end the third round, which is pick 42, took Noah Dobson.
Oh, if you need D, Brian, you know where to go.
Yeah.
This
So
person's ready.
I actually I asked Sean. I think it's Sean in our league chat. Like, hey, like, oh, that's a bold move. And to be honest, I was kind of hoping Dahlin would. I knew it wasn't likely, but would find his way all the way back down to me at the end of the second round, which wasn't going to happen. But and at least my hopes were dashed quickly. And Sean was just like, I might need to try some different strategy. Like I'm at 14th. I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball, so I'm gonna try to get creative and find something to do. Maybe take some drastic measures here. So we'll see how that pays off. Like interestingly, 13th overall also has 2 defensemen out of 4 picks so far. Between them, they have 5 defensemen, 2 wingers, and a center. Which is.
So are you worried? All the D are running out.
I mean, I'm not that worried. I don't want to blow up my game too much here, but
Of course.
I'm not that worried. I considered, I would have considered a D coming back to me at the turn at the end of the second round, but there weren't any available that I was wanted as much as I wanted Jake Gensel, who was on the board. So I took Kucherov in the first at 4th overall, then Gensel at 30 something overall. Sorry, and Bedard. I had a choice, Bedard or Barkov. 4th pick of the 3rd round. So I guess that's 32nd overall. And last year, there was this moment where I had a choice of Philip Forsberg or Connor Bedard. And I was like, you know what? Just give me the safe pick, Philip Forsberg. And that was maybe the best pick I made all draft because Forsberg was incredible. And this year I decided I wanted to I'm ready to go the fun route with Bedard. I think I don't know how likely it is that Bedard can blow Barkov out of the water, but I gave myself enough reasons to convince myself that I want to have fun. It'll be fun to have him on my team. Chicago has a pretty good schedule. Also, one thing I used to convince myself was Barkov played all summer, right? That was a long playoff run. Bedard's just been chilling, climbing mountains, doing what he does, getting ready, growing.
Is that something you read on Twitter? Is he
Someone said he did the grouse. Oh, I'm gonna
the
blow
grouse
it
grind
here.
in Vancouver.
You
I've
know
done
the
that.
grouse? What?
I lived in Vancouver. I did it a bunch of times.
I've never heard of the grouse. I haven't lived in Vancouver, but I don't know the grouse grind.
It's
Apparently,
fun.
he did it 15 minutes faster than the Sedin's best record.
Okay. Well,
So,
that's you know how I like those workout
You
tweets as an indicator of who to draft. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
I don't know
good.
where this info came from or why I know it, but there it is. So for me, that was good. That was good. I'm happy with that. And
All
now
right.
I await my 4th pick.
Well,
Oh,
another thing that
yeah.
many of us are awaiting for is our interview with Tom
Oh,
Lischishin.
okay, but quickly, I'm going to
but
keep you
first-
waiting. No, I think it's interesting. Maybe more interesting than my team. I should have led with this. But if you want to know any draft trends, as you prepare for your drafts in the
Are we blowing
cupful-
up the drafts for the people who are just you were just saying before how we have some drafts that we're going to get started as soon as a couple more people join. Now
I'm
we're
not
going to
blow
kinda
anything up.
tipping.
No, I'm not going to blow anything
Yes,
up.
we already have. We already told them how Draisaitl's a good pick at 6. Now the person at 5 is going to be like, well, I wonder if this. Anyway, okay.
I'm not going to blow anything up. I'm just going to say Connor McDavid went first in 100% of drafts.
Mm.
Nathan McKinnon went second in all drafts except one where Austin
was
Matthews
Matthews?
was taken first. And Austin Matthews was taken 3rd in every single division, except for the one that he went 2nd. So, that top 3 is locked in. My allied chat, we were trying to decide, how likely is it that Matthews is going to fall to us? I said, maybe 5 divisions, maybe as many as 10. And then someone's like, well, I'll take the under. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I think 5 might even be. But the answer is 0. I thought someone would take someone over Matthews, but I guess
I
not.
wouldn't.
No, me neither. But like,
I think these people made the right choice.
oh, for sure. But sometimes I don't
You're
know.
crazy. Sometimes you do a dumb
people like
thing.
to get creative and like
Yeah.
be a bit of a rebel, as we've talked about on the show. The
You
first,
open up that
second,
rosé.
third round are not necessarily the times to rebel. Like, save those bold picks for later. This is your time to like not mess around. That's our advice, and I guess that's the advice of the patrons who are drafting. Elon, you know what we've been waiting so long for?
To talk to Dom.
Yeah, and like he's
Oh.
just been waiting this whole.
You know what, Brian? I see
Oh.
actually right here. Dom's on the line.
Okay.
Let's bring in our interview with Dom Musician.
Beautiful.
Wait, I
Good
might have
job.
mispronounced it there.
You
Oh, whatever,
did.
Who cares?
No, you should say it again. Let's bring in our
Okay.
interview.
I see Dom's on the line. Let's bring him on. Let's bring Dom on the call. I think Dom's on the line. Let's bring Dom on. Let's do it. Okay. Well, I'll
Love
use
that,
one
like
of those.
that whole piece is on YouTube. Like, it's funny to think that like there's a YouTube
Yeah,
video that's
it's
going to be
corny.
up forever with like that
Yeah.
18
Us being
seconds.
losers. All right, let's get out of here. Dina's messaging me now. She messaged me at 9. I said 10 minutes at 9:24. Now it's 9:30. So that means we've got 4 minutes to knock out
Okay.
these advertisements. So I'm going to do mine first, okay?
Oh
You'll
yeah,
have
but I
yours
need
ready
to.
to go.
I need.
You can do it.
We were gonna put mine first this time. Oh, but we're not doing it live.
Do you want to do yours?
'Cause
Okay, you
didn't
do yours
someone-
first. If
well,
you're ready to go now, then do it.
Someone
Let's do
pointed.
it.
I'm ready to go. Are
I
you
don't
cool
care.
with that?
I skip it anyways when I listen to podcasts, so it doesn't matter.
Are you ready? Should I
Yeah.
do it?
Mhm.
All right. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What is something that you would really like to learn more about? Do you ever make time to learn new things or try new hobbies or do those things that you always wish you did, but now that you're an adult, you feel like there's no space for it? Well, if you have lost your sense of wonder, therapy is something that can help you reconnect with that, because your back to school era, that can come at any age. Therapy is something that can help you learn some coping skills, set boundaries, be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just, conventionally. Oh, no, sorry. And it isn't just for. Sorry. It can really help anyone. Honestly, I say that to my friends. Everyone can give therapy a try. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN.
All right, good job. Marner just got taken in mine. That would have been fun. There was no chance he was going to fall. I'm not even going to sweat these picks right now. All right, let's do this. TD, Tutty, taking it to the house. Whatever you call a touchdown, they matter more at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Ready to place your first NFL bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score a touchdown. Or, since you're listening to a hockey podcast, I'd imagine maybe you're interested in making a bet on something happening in the NHL. We talked to Dom all about Mitch Marner. I see you can go and bet on how many points he's going to have on the regular season. I'm seeing here a line of over or under 94.5, according to Dom. I'm not giving gambling advice here. This is just, I'm saying Dom's model, obviously, as we discussed, likes the over. What do you like? I don't know. Up to you. Okay, you could go over to DraftKings Sportsbook and you tell them. Okay, ready to do a touchdown dance of your own? Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns and how many points Mitch Marner will get. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That is code THPN for new customers, and get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Boom. All right.
Hey, great.
Hey,
Good
all right,
job.
so with
What crown
that,
is whose? Mine? Yours?
I'm going to wear the crown
All of ours.
if I win my Marner bet. which I won't be doing in Cacupful because he got picked. So Brian, it's 5 picks till me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's 6. So I'm gonna get one of these. I'm gonna get one, and I have 7
Do you want to
people
name?
here.
Are you happy to name them?
Oh yeah, I
like you're
shouldn't.
you're
Right,
tipping
it's
your
still
hand
live.
to your
That's true. I already know who I'm gonna get. I'm probably just gonna get the same as you. Like, who am I kidding? But all right, see you everybody. Bye.
Bye everybody. I'm sorry for telling Elon not to share. That was about to get real juicy.
Ask me on the Discord.
Who, me or everyone else?
No, everyone.
Okay,
Or-
that's nice. That was a nice offer.
Yeah, like in Cacupful zone. Not like don't DM me, please. Like, okay, see ya.
Bye everybody. Thank you.